I recently published a video showing you how you could use a free web tool to generate an STL of a box with custom dimensions and interior layout. But sometimes you don't just want a custom size, you want a custom shape. So today I'm going to show you how you can quickly and easily produce a 3D printable box in any shape and size you want just from a 2D image. So let's have a look. For this, we're going to be using a piece of software called LuBan3D. No, not Luban by Snapmaker. This is LuBan3D. It's a piece of software with a wide range of tools available for producing and editing 3D models. It's available for Windows, Mac and Linux at LuBan3D.com. It can be used for free with slightly limited functionality and export quality. There's a fully featured 30-day free trial and then a range of licenses for further use. So get it downloaded from LuBan3D.com and let's get stuck in. If you've not used LuBan3D before, the quite stark user interface may be a bit of a shock, but don't worry, it's super easy to use. To get started, go to File, then Create, and finally select Photo Magic. We'll then get a list of settings in a menu on the left, but first we need to select the correct mode before we get the settings that we need. So in the drop-down menu next to Method, select Box. The next thing we need to do is select a photo, and this will be used to create the shape of our box. If you want a very specific shape, the best thing to do is to use an image of block colours and high contrast, like a silhouette. Or even if it's an image with more detail, the higher the contrast, the better likelihood it will recognise the exact shape that you're after. However, technically you can use an actual photo here, and Luban will then try and figure out what object in that photo you're referring to and make a box in that shape. This can be really useful if you're trying to quickly make a box that perfectly holds a specific object. If, however, your image has too much detail or particularly strong lighting, Luban can get very confused and either produce the wrong shape or just crash entirely. So for the sake of this video, I'm going to be producing a box in the shape of the 3D Rev logo. I'll click Browse next to Select Photo, and I'm going to select an image of my logo. Almost immediately it created a box perfectly in the shape of my logo. The white is the base of the box and the blue is the lid. Next we can enter our desired dimensions, but before that we can select whether we want to enter internal dimensions, which is great if you're creating a box for a specific thing to fit into, or external dimensions. Switching between these will also determine if the shape is directly applied to the exterior or the interior of the box. With inner size selected, the exterior shape may in some cases slightly less resemble the image that you uploaded. The X and Y dimensions are relative, so when you change one, it'll change the other to ensure that it remains true to the image's original aspect ratio. I should also mention that when you enter a new value in these boxes, clicking into another box won't action it. You need to hit return on your keyboard for it to take effect. Next, you can enter the Z axis for how tall you want it to be. The Z axis is for the base of the box and doesn't include the added height of the lid. Bear in mind, with this style of lid, the base of the box extends inside the lid to a certain extent. The next dimension is thickness, and this will denote how thick the top of the lid is and how thick the walls of the box are. Next we have lid type, which is the type of lid that the box will have, and we have a few options here. Each of these options have different settings that follow on and are specific to that lid type, so I'll go through each of these lid types in turn with each of their settings. First of all, and pre-selected, we have Basic. This lid is, as the name suggests, a basic lid that just slots on over the body. The body features a recess around the edge and the lid slots down onto that, relying on just friction to hold it in place. The first options we have for basic lid are lid Z size and lid size indent. The lid Z size is how much higher the inside of the lid is from the top of the box when it's fitted. This can be useful if you wanted the thing that you're storing in it to be sticking out the top of the box once you've removed the lid. The lid indent is the distance that the lid overlaps with the body. The bigger this number, the more secure the lid will be. To best show you the next option, I'll load a different image which will change the shape of the box. I'm just going to switch to another version of my logo and I'll select this one here. Now obviously this image contains a rounded squared shape and the box has matched that shape, but it did have my logo within it. By standard, inner pattern is set to ignore, which means it'll ignore any internal detail in the shape. But if we change this to extrude, you can see that my logo, which was within this square, is now extruded on top of the lid. We can also set this to indent, which will effectively engrave the logo into the lid. If we had it set to engrave and we set this to a lower number than the layer height that we were printing at, we could then paint this a different colour just using the fill tool, but have it all printed on the same layer. The next option is hollow lid, which will cut the inner detail out from the lid entirely. It doesn't work well with this box, but if this inner detail was more of a bold fonted text, this could look really cool. And finally we have the option for hollow box, which shapes the cutout for the entire box, not just the lid. If you ever wondered how you were going to make a box to perfectly protect your donut that you were taking to work for lunch, wonder no more. With either extrude or indent selected, you get an additional option below called pattern depth, and this is just how far you want that inner detail to be extruded or engraved into your lid. The last two options we have here apply to all lid types, so I'll come back to them after we've gone through the others. Let's switch back to my logo shape image for now, and I'll set inner pattern back to ignore. The second lid option is twist. Similarly to basic, this involves the lid just slipping over the body, but it twists the shape on both the lid and the base into an almost thread. However, I should note that some shapes aren't going to work with this. This has the same set of extended options that the basic lid does, but with the additional one that is to set the twist angle of the lid. Next we have flat lid, which provides a perfectly flat lid the same size and shape as the body, and this is held to the body exclusively with magnets, which you can position sink holes for using the following settings. The first option is magnet sink, and this allows you to set how many holes you want to add for magnets. Let's set 3 for now. You can see that they've all been positioned in pretty random places, but don't worry about that, we'll fix that in a minute. We now have sink diameter and sink depth. This should be the diameter and depth of the holes that you want to create for the magnets. You don't need to account for tolerance with this, as we'll be adding this by a later setting, so for now just set the exact dimensions of the magnets that you want to fit. For argument's sake, let's say I'm using a 3x2 magnet. However, with our wall thickness set to 3mm, we can't have magnets that are the same size or larger, so let's increase our thickness to 5, which will allow just under 1mm either side of the magnet after allowing for tolerance. Okay, well now we want to position them. You'll notice that one of the magnet holes is highlighted in red. The next setting is sink index. If we change that to 2, it will highlight another magnet, and if I select 3, yet another. Sink index allows us to select a specific magnet hole. The sink position is the distance of that hole compared to the start of the box wall, if you imagine that the wall was a single straight line with a start and an end. You need to set a number between 0 and 1 for each of the magnets to position them, so imagine that it is a fraction of the length of the wall, with 1 being the entire wall, so 0.5 would be halfway along the wall. Let's do that here. With the first magnet selected, we'll enter 0.15, which is pretty much in the center of the curve of the logo. For the second one, we'll select 0.4, which will put it in the corner of the logo. And for the final one, we want to try and put it in the other corner, so let's try 0.92. That's a bit too far, we'll go with 0.9. There we go, that will do. Finally, we have the lid inlay option. This basically creates a perfectly flat lid that slots into the body to sit flush with the top. Unfortunately, this one can be a pain to remove with no handles or anything, but you could modify your image to feature a shape within the main body, and then either extrude that into a handle or add a circle and have it cut away to add something that you can then insert your finger in to remove it. As we don't need to account for the size of the magnets, let's set the thickness back to 3 for a more reasonable lid thickness. The rest of these settings apply to all lid types, so let's pop back up to flat lid for now, as it'll allow us to more easily see inside the box. Because the lid only goes transparent when these magnet sinks are set, and because we currently have a thickness set too small for the sink diameter, there aren't any magnet sinks currently set, and so the lid is not transparent. So let's reduce the sink diameter to 2 so we can then see what we're doing. The first option here is nested box. Now by selecting yes, it will automatically create a sort of Russian nesting doll out of the chosen shape, so a box within a box within a box. If you tick yes and no internal versions are added, it's likely due to your Z dimensions being too small or your thickness being too big and not leaving enough space for another box to sit inside. It will create the biggest number of nesting boxes it can with the space available. With nesting selected, you get a new option, clearance. This is the gap that you want to leave between the lid of a nested box and the inside top of the box that it's inside of. The smaller the number, the taller the nesting boxes can be. If you set the clearance too large, there won't be enough room for the nesting box and it won't generate one. Next up we have edge chamfer, and this allows you to add a chamfer to the upper edge of your lids and the bottom outer edge of the box. But I need to be honest, it can do some funky things in corners, and with a lot of shapes it just doesn't come out great, so I tend not to use this. Finally we have tolerance. Tolerance is the gap allowed between parts that fit together to account for things like material expansion and slight inaccuracies in printing. Here this applies to the lid and body as well as the sinkholes for the magnets. If you wanted a different tolerance for the magnets, just adjust the diameter for the sinkholes accordingly. 0 would mean the inner dimensions of the lid are identical to the exterior dimensions of the part of the box that it slots onto. You'll want to add some tolerance to allow a slight gap for them to fit together. You need to enter a negative number here, and you may need to experiment to find a tolerance that works best for you and your equipment. Once you've got those settings all dialed in and you're happy with your box design, it's time to export, so hit Save Model. LuBan doesn't allow you to enter a name on export, so just select a folder to save it to. It will then create a new folder and it will save the box within that folder. There's nothing specific to cover with slicing for this, and a lot of it comes down to a personal preference, so let's get these printed and see how they come out. I ended up printing a few different boxes of the logo to see how the different styles would actually come out, and they've all come out great. They are obviously all in the shape of the logo, and the only thing that I could really say about them is that the lids can be quite tight, but they do fit, and the only reason they're tight is because of the tolerance that I set. So I could just go back, change that tolerance slightly, print again, and that would come out perfectly. The inlay lid came out really nicely, but I would definitely recommend, if you're doing this lid style, to include a hole like I suggested. Obviously put it wherever, but without that, this sort of lid would be extremely difficult to remove. The method that I covered for printing multiple colours on that first layer came out really nicely. Obviously the whole point of this was to easily produce a custom shape and size box, and that's exactly what we've done. It was a really easy process, and here we have a box in the shape of the 3D Revolution logo, and it's functional. So this is great if you want to make a custom shaped box for aesthetic purposes, whether it be as a gift, a promotional item, or just for yourself. But where the practicality of this tool really shines is the ability to produce a custom shaped box which a specific item perfectly fits into. I have this set of calipers that I regularly want to just throw into my bag to take with me, but I'm always a bit concerned that I'm either going to damage them or the sharp end is going to tear through the bag. I grabbed a photo of the calipers and ran it into LuBan. Now, many items would work fine with this, but because of its light and reflective colouring along with the white background, LuBan got confused about exactly what shape it was supposed to make. So I popped the photo into Photoshop, although any photo editor would do, and tweaked the contrast and brightness and ran a colour overlay just on the calipers until it was basically a silhouette. The only thing that you want to do differently here is set the internal dimensions rather than the external dimensions. The scale should all be relative providing the image was taken flat on. So you just want to take a measurement of the X or Y of your actual item and set that as the internal dimension in LuBan, but with a tolerance added, so maybe add 1mm to be safe. And 2 hours later, this is what I got, a fun and compact case that the calipers perfectly fit into. Hopefully you found this video useful and it's given you a new way to quickly and easily make some fun and custom boxes. If you like it, hit the like button. If you dislike it, hit dislike. And if you'd like to learn more from my videos in the future, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. Don't forget, if you hit the join button below my video and become a channel member, not only will you get the usual member benefits such as early access to my videos and exclusive access to the 3D Rev Discord community, you also now get a perpetual members discount at 3drevolutionstore.com, where you'll find a large and growing range of 3D printing and maker themed clothing and accessories. More importantly, thanks very much everyone, and until next time, happy printing. Thanks for sticking around, and as you're still here, it seems like you're in the mood for learning, so why not crack out one of my other videos to learn something new or have some fun. A huge thank you to my channel members, my 3D revolutionaries, and to all of you, until next time, happy printing.